So in this week's parasha, we have the story of Eliezer being sent to marry off Yitzchak to find a nice shidduch for him, and we know the story that the woman ended up becoming Rivka. So the Torah tells us that there was a conversation that Eliezer had with Avram, what to do if the girl meets all the samanim, all the signs, but she doesn't want to come back and marry Yitzchak. What do I do? Read the story for what the answer was. Then the Torah tells us that when he actually meets Rivka and meets the family, he repeats, the Torah itself repeats the whole story and repeats the whole dialogue, the conversation that he had with Avram Avinu. That's repeated again. He tells Lavan and Basula the whole story, who he is, what his mission is, about Avram, about the Yitzchak, about, Shidduch, and the whole story. So then it's repeated again, the fact that he asked Avram what to do if the girl doesn't want to go back. And then, so the word is that Ulai, lo sove isha lech zakhamai, maybe the woman won't want to go back. So the Torah changes it. Instead of Ulai, it's actually Eli. We read it Ulai, but it says in the Torah itself, Eli, Aleph Lamed Yud, that for me, that Eliezer really wanted his own daughter to marry Yitzchak. And that's why, and that's what the Torah says, to teach you this lesson, that Eliezer really deep down had thoughts of his own daughter marrying Yitzchak. I have a shir for another time about this very interesting idea. But today we're going to say some of the classic answers to the famous question that the Torah should have told this idea if Eliezer really had an agius, really had a bias, that he wanted his own daughter to marry Yitzchak. So the Torah should have told us the first time. Why is this shtick, Ulai, Eli, being presented the second time, when the story is just being retold? Maybe the first time, Ari, yeah? Mm-hmm. When Eliezer asked Avram what to do if the girl doesn't want to go back, then the Torah should change it from Ulai to Eli to teach us this idea that he really wanted to sabotage the mission. Why did the Torah wait the second time to do that? So like I said, I have a nice share on that. You can look on the YouTube, Pashas Chaya Sara, for a nice mahalach. That's where to answer that question in the psukim itself. But we're going to say over some classic answer. The classic answer that some say is that Eliezer himself didn't realize that he had the nagias. So the first time the Torah doesn't tell us that, because the Torah is trying to teach you that sometimes when you have a bias, you don't even realize yourself when you're in the heat of the situation. Only afterwards, then you realize that you had a nagias, you had a bias retroactively. So the first time the Torah doesn't say it. The second time, after he was matzliach in the shlichus, he was successful in the mission, and his nagia went away. He found the right man. It was going. The right girl. It was going to be Rivka that married Yitzchak. Then he realized that Lemafreya, that retroactively he had a nagias, he had a bias that he really wanted Eliezer for himself, for his own daughter. That's one answer. The Ger Rebbe gives an answer that no, as long as Eliezer was in the proximity of Avram Avinu, he was influenced from his holiness, and therefore Avram Avinu's kedusha, his holiness, affected him, and he didn't have the bias. But when he was away from Avram Avinu, then the bias came. Attach yourselves to tzaddikim, to holy people, and then their midos will rub off on you. But once he was away from Avram Avinu, therefore the nagias came. Just a small little cute lesson that you learn from this teretz of the Ger Rebbe. Shabbat Shalom.